All right, going over to yet another standard. The Poverty Probability Index was first developed by Grameen Bank as part of their microlending efforts. Right there, this is Muhammad Yunus, won the Nobel Peace Prize for creating microlending. They went out and figured out a methodology for asking poor people in the world about their life. And it's now spun out into its own thing. It's the povertyindex.org. And I'm not seeing it picked up by anyone else. I'm not seeing this as a way to showcase your impact, probably because it's so focused on one of those impacts. It's basically focused on SDG 1, which is poverty. And so if you're doing anything else, this is not measuring your impact. This is just measuring how you're affecting your customers or your stakeholders, your vendors even, in terms of their life and their quality of life and their rise out of poverty. But I did see this mentioned by Acumen. So Acumen, that logo showed up in Rachel's talk at the beginning of this webinar. Acumen is a big nonprofit that does a lot of investing. For years, the one thing that they would measure, and the only thing they would really talk about in numeric terms repeatedly for all their investments, was called lives touched, this term right here. So they decided, they looked at this problem and they said, this is really hard to do. It's really hard to measure impact. It's impossible to aggregate between the impacts. So we're just going to simplify everything down to how many lives has this effort touched? And we're not going to make a distinction between we touched the lives immensely and we saved lives versus we touched the life and made them better for an hour. Doesn't matter. In the old Acumen system, a live touch is a live touch. Life touch is life touched. And if you're trying to change the whole world, if your mission is to improve the lives of 7 billion people, or even just the 3.5 billion poor people, then that's fine. Right? If that's your goal and you want to be broad and touch everybody, that's a perfectly good measure. And it's additive. Like, the best thing about it is no matter what you do, no matter what your business is, whatever your investment is, it touches lives. If it doesn't have customers, it's not a good business. So if it has customers and it touches their lives, and it has vendors and it touches their lives, well, now you can compare these things and add them together. You just can't tell how much you've actually changed anything. So a few years ago, 2019, Acumen spun out a new company called 60 Decibels to do impact measurement, because they had a subgroup. They actually had a chief impact officer, and he developed a new methodology that was much better than that lives touched, which they call lean data. And so 60 Decibels is now up and running, and they are a shop for hire if you want to go get lean data about your services. And their customers are the big impact investors and foundations, not the angels. But I thought it worth sharing what they're doing. So again, this is straight off their website. Their marketing is basically saying, well, what would it make a difference? What would it change if you could actually measure what your impact was? So they know, they're in this space. They worked for Acumen for years. They know how hard it is to measure impact. And so they're out marketing saying, we have a solution for you. And their solution has 4 parts to it. One part is not an impact measurement. One part is just a standard measure that's seen in business, which is called the Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score, if you haven't heard of it, you've seen it on the internet. You've been asked this question. It's one question. Would you recommend this to a friend or a colleague? That's it. You just ask that one question, scale of 1 to 10. What are the odds you're going to recommend this to someone else? Higher is better. And it's been proven with studies that that's a sufficient question to ask to understand if your business is doing a good job. And I want to point out, in terms of impact investing and changing the world, my thesis and the thesis of a lot of people are that we need to invest in for-profits so that they have profits, so that they can expand their impact. And so if they have products and nobody likes the product, they're going to fail. So Net Promoter Score is a good way to see if you're just headed down the right path towards scale. And then the other benchmarks they look at is some I just hadn't seen before. That number 2 I had never seen anywhere else. They basically ask questions that determine whether or not the customer has any choice. Did they buy this product because they liked it, or because they had no other choice? And so here's their benchmarks, and they split it up by region. They have divisions by sectors, and then if you hire them, you can get more detailed information. Benchmark 3 is quality of life, right? How much did this product or service improve the life of the customer? And then something around challenges. This is very different, right? This has nothing to do with how a company is organized, nothing to do with what the ownership is, doesn't care if the company recycles or not. This is, what does the company do? This is focused very much on what are the outcomes of the company's effort, and I say company, again, could be for-profit or nonprofit or hybrid, doesn't matter. But what do they, not what do they do, but does what they do actually do what they think it should do?